Somebody's so funny. Oh, and we're down. What's up, people on YouTube? Welcome to episode 47 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. We have a little bit of technical difficulties here, but we're good. We're good now. I'm here with Christian back in the Philadelphia area. Can they see you? Yeah, they can see you. Let me lean over a little bit. There he is. And we got Matt here as well. Matt, say hello.
Oh, little Matt saying hi here.
Yeah, there we go. Matt's up at Penn State. All right, I think we are actually good to go. No technical difficulties, at least from here on out, let's hope. And I think we're all fairly prepared for things. Are we good with the window open, or is that going to be annoying? That. Yeah. All right, It's going to get hot. That's fine. We can tolerate hot for 45 minutes to an hour. Okay. Bear with us. No, that's going to be loud as shit. Okay. It's going to be okay. All right. So we are good to go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 47 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. I am Dave Knittel, here as always with my brothers Christian and Matt to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Christian, how are things?
Things are going great, Dave. Thanks for asking. Liverpool won 7-0 today. So, what else can you ask for? Plus, I got some tickets to go see Penn State beat up on Michigan this weekend with Matt. That's also something great.
Yeah.
I'm going to go kill this dog for a second.
All right. That's nice. So, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dave. Thanks for asking. NBA starts tonight. I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah, how are you?
All right. Thank you for asking, Matt. I'm doing well. I'm back in the Philly area. Christian is not harming any animals, just for anybody concerned.
No animals were harmed. No
animals. Exactly. I am back in the Philly area hanging with Christian at his apartment. Doing well. Happy to be home. Escaped the California wildfires and all of that. And I am doing well.
Is that a new sports team they have?
Yes. And so we are going to jump into our topics. But before we do that, Christian, do you have a trivia question?
I sure do have a trivia question this week, Dave. I know. Last week was a little rough. No one had one, but for all our fans, I know this is why you come. Yeah. I brought it back.
You didn't have one. It's your responsibility.
I think that everybody was partially responsible for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this week, my question is in relation to La Liga's biggest game of the weekend. It was Barca versus Atletico Madrid. In the 12 games that Diego Simeone has been in charge in the league against Barcelona, how many games has he won?
Okay, 12. And how many has he won? Okay, we'll think on that. Matt, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. I think I have my answer.
Okay. All right. We will think on that, listeners. Stick with us, and we will give the answer as well as our guesses at the end of the program.
Full record.
Okay. That's great.
You can guess whatever you want.
All right. Before we get to our topics here, let me just give a quick plug for Fan Futsal. I am the founder of Fan Futsal. It is a simplified fantasy soccer website. Have you select 5 clubs instead of 8 to 11 individual players. Our scoring is simplified, so you only need to follow match scores. It's basically for the general soccer fan. We don't get too into statistics. You don't need to be a statistician or have like these crazy models to enjoy it and have fun. We offer games from the 5 major European leagues as well as Liga MX and MLS last weekend for MLS in the regular season. So definitely come check it out. It's FANFUTSAL.com. We also have this new tournament feature where you can get a group of 4, 8, 16, or even 32 friends together, play a little World Cup style tournament with the group stage and then knockout rounds. So definitely come check it out. Really exciting website and some cool, awesome features we got on there.
If you have 32 friends, you got a lot going on in your life. Yeah. So good job.
Yeah. That is, it's impressive.
Yeah.
For
that
those,
is really
what
you're looking for, though.
Yes, exactly. So with that, let's get into our topics for the week. And big topic is in American soccer is the U.S. failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup for the first time in any of our lives on the podcast here. Christian, what happened? What are your thoughts on the lack of qualifying? Just how you doing?
I am not good. Yeah. Not good, Dave. I watched it at a bar last week, and I was on the verge of tears. Like, people were coming up to me who I don't really know and saying, like, are you okay? I was not good. And at work the next day, my coworkers really thought someone died and didn't want to say anything to me. I was very affected by it, but midway through that day, I got the message that the last 2 times the U.S. hasn't made it, Penn State has won the national title. So how about that fact?
Yeah, Matt provided that fact.
Matt I knew that fact before Matt gave
Oh,
it
okay.
to us.
Well, Matt sent it, and I was.
I did like it though.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, the U.S. It's atrocious. Alexi Lawless is saying it's only going to make us stronger. I saw him say that today. I don't agree with that. I think it's going to set us back multiple years. A lot of our fandom is going to struggle because of this, and the World Cup really brings the country together. And it gives you this feeling that I don't feel in any other sporting event. And I remember the last one, just going to the bar, like everyone is so passionate watching this one game, and you don't really get that. It's sad that we're not going to get it again in this country.
Yeah. So I have my thoughts too. Matt, what are your thoughts on the mess?
Yeah, I think it's devastating. I was pretty upset about it. The next day, I was pretty upset even. After that, I mean, it's annoying. It's not like it affected my day. It just sucks having to wait 5 years to watch another World Cup to experience like that unity with the country.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, it was obviously disappointing. I mean, up until the end, I was still somewhat in disbelief because there was so many different ways that the U.S. could still qualify even if they didn't win, and literally everything went wrong. So rather than getting into the specifics and all that, because I'm sure people have heard it at this point, they've heard different rants and all that, U.S. had a 93% chance to qualify and a 97% chance to at least go to a playoff with Australia. So many things had to go wrong that now that it's been over a week, it's almost funny everything that went wrong and the way that it went wrong. So the U.S. had to lose, Panama had to win, and Honduras had to win. Panama scored an equalizing goal that didn't even cross the line. And then they went and scored a last minute, 87th minute goal for them to end up winning. Honduras was losing for most of the match, and they scored a goal that hit off the crossbar, the post, off the goalkeeper's head, off the post, and then in. That's how they ended up winning. The U.S. scored a ridiculous own goal, and then the guy who scored the game-winning goal for Trinidad hit a 35-yard bomb, the best shot of his life, that nobody would ever think is actually going in. So it's almost just – it's ridiculous how many things went wrong for the U.S. to actually miss the World Cup.
Yeah, but that 35-yard strike, I don't care. In that position, that should never be going in, ever. Tim Howard should save that.
Yeah.
A player of his caliber, no way should that ball have gone in. And
well, I think his caliber is this now.
I know.
Like, that's the thing. He's 38 years old.
But we have no one coming in who's
and
ready to
that's
replace him. And my biggest thing is Omar Gonzalez. I hope that was the last game we ever see of him. That is another atrocious mistake. And yeah, it's a fluke, but you can't – at this level, you cannot be making those errors.
Yeah, I don't know why Jeff Cameron wasn't starting. That is the biggest thing. I texted it right away. At least I texted it for the Panama game. Mm-hmm. That I couldn't believe Omar was starting over Jeff Cameron. And then for Bruce to just stick with the lineup, it was more just hopeful that they would continue. But I've never been the biggest Omar fan. And unfortunately, it was kind of proven correct there.
Yeah, sticking with the same 11, I think, is just costly in international play because you only have 4 days rest. Yeah. And players are just going to be exhausted, especially with all the travel you do in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah, especially the players coming back from Europe. And Matt, is this enthralling to you?
What?
Matt, podcast listeners, for those of you who can't see, Matt is yawning as we are discussing this thing.
I was getting ready to say something, and then you started talking, and my mouth was open, and a yawn just came out, so my mouth was just open for a really long time.
Okay. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask you guys, like, who do you think should be coach, or who are the options for coach next?
Yeah. So for me, I think that they shouldn't make a decision. They should appoint an interim coach, get through at least the European season and primarily through the World Cup, because at that point, there's going to be so many coaches on the market that you're going to have your pick of options. And if you pick a coach now, it's severely limited. And I think they need to wait before they make a decision. I don't have anybody specific in mind, but there's a ton of people going to be available in the future.
I was seeing a lot of rumors that Tata Martino might already leave Atlanta and take over the U.S. national team. And he has international experience with Argentina and Paraguay?
Yeah, Paraguay.
Yeah. He coached Barcelona. He's been there, and he's guiding a brand new team to high levels in the East in MLS. So you never know. A player or a manager who really gets the best out of their players like that, especially with a new club that has never, ever played together and has a new fan base, he's brought them together and made it a real unified club down there. And I'd be very interested to see what he could do with the national team.
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I would know. After hearing what you said, waiting until there's more coaches on the market, because I think after this season, that's when most teams are going to want to start over again, not get rid of managers in the middle of the season, which we've talked about before, and how indestructive that could be. So yeah, I would be on board with interim hire and then term after the European season.
Well, Thomas Tuchel's available. Right?
Yeah, Tuchel's available, but I'm even saying after the World Cup, there's going to be tons of coaches that just aren't renewed because most coaches usually are just there for a cycle. So, I've heard Roberto Martinez as a possible, rumor.
The Belgium coach?
Yeah, the Belgian coach who, he did amazing things with Wigan when they were
I know,
in
but
the
he's
Premier
done
League.
amazing things with Belgium. Why would he leave now?
Because a lot of national team coaches only last one cycle.
I just can't imagine that to be true for Belgium, at least. I think they're going to be competitive unless they blow it like really badly.
No, but it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with his performance. It's just the way national team coaches. A lot of times, it's good to get them out after one cycle because players just start tuning managers out, and especially at the international level, it doesn't work over longer periods of time. It's better to just churn over another coach, get new blood in there, and get them more motivated.
I think Jurgen Klinsmann's still available.
Yeah. Yes, he is. You bring him back. I will say, I just want to say this. I actually wrote a blog post on Medium about it, but I think that this result, the U.S. not qualifying, was kind of building. We missed the last two Olympics. We missed two Youth World Cups, the U17 and a U20 World Cup. And those players basically are in the 20 to 28-year-old range right now. And I think we're seeing the lack of talent and the lack of depth within our talent pool. And it has two functions. So not only do we not have depth and we don't have talented players in their prime, or at least enough of them, but those players aren't pushing the older players to be better. We had, I think, 12 30-year-olds on this roster. That's insane for an international roster to have that many older people. It's just not good enough. And we have a ton of teenagers to 20-year-olds that are coming through in Europe right now, whether it's Weston McKennie and Pulisic, Haji Wright, and even in America, Tyler Adams, I think I'm incredibly impressed by.
We have players like Matt Miazga.
Yeah. And then even this guy, Jonathan Gonzalez, who's playing for Monterrey in Liga MX, he's 18 years old and dominating the center midfield for them. So we have all this talent. They're just slightly too young. And then we just don't have players who should be really pushing. And ultimately, this result probably we should have seen coming. Dempsey's shot goes 2 inches to the left. We're not having this conversation at all. But still, you can kind of see the writing on the wall why this happened.
Yeah. And just back to the coaches, Ancelotti is available. One of the best managers in recent times.
The problem
you might as well. Why is that your face?
Yeah, the problem with Ancelotti, from my perspective, is he's very much a laissez-faire kind of coach. Let the players figure it out, and that's how Bruce was, and that's a little bit how Jurgen was. And so I think what we need right now is somebody a little bit more specific and detailed.
Harsher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But who? I don't even see. Is Louis van Gaal like that, or would you say he's more laissez-faire as well?
No, he's very structured.
I know.
I don't want him. I wouldn't want him. Tuchel. I like Tuchel as a name. I like Martino's an interesting one. Martino?
Tata?
Yeah, Tata. You hear Vermees and, some of the coaches in MLS or managers in MLS. I'm not particularly a fan of that. I think we kind of need to get new ideas and fresh blood in there.
Yeah, no. A lot of people hate when it's not a U.S. national citizen who's a coach. But I think we need something different. I think we have to change the way things are going right now.
Yeah, we need something different. Matt, anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. Christian, you sent an article, so switching gears a little bit, looking kind of towards the future, which is always ridiculous because players are going to develop, players are going to get very different. They're going to have different experiences. Players are going to get hurt. Some players aren't going to come through and be as talented as they were. So Christian sent a list of the starting roster in 2022 that people want to see. And so from my perspective, we can have this conversation. I think it's going to be a little ridiculous to have the conversation. But Christian, do you want to say your thoughts on this roster? Do you want to give a recap? So the roster, for those of you out there that need to know, they had Bobby Wood at center forward, Jordan Morris on the left, Josh Sargent on the right, Pulisic in the middle right behind them, with Kellen Acosta and Weston McKennie in the middle. And then across the back line had Acosta, forget his first name, Acosta. He plays he's the left back for Real Salt Lake at left back. John Brooks at center back, Miazga at right center back, Yedlin at right back, and then Ethan Horvath at goalkeeper. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on those players? Can you see that being our starting roster? Would you be happy with that roster, or what do you think?
The names on that roster, I feel like other than Pulisic, I feel like it's going to be a lot of the same of what I've watched in my life. I think those players are good, but I don't think they're necessarily big names other than Pulisic. Obviously, I think Pulisic's going to be Donovan or Dempsey was, which those are the two best in my life. So I can only compare them to them. And I think he's maybe head and shoulders above, but I don't. Hello? Hey, sorry. Yeah, so I think he's kind of a new level of expectation, but the rest of the team looks like basically U.S. soccer, what it should be to me.
Okay, so Pulisic, and Pulisic's the only one that you think is really kind of groundbreaking?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there, so we just switched. So if our audio sounds worse, I apologize, listeners out there. So please just bear with us. All right, I'm going to cut this because this is throwing me off here. Because the audio sounds like shit.
I started hearing noise.
Yeah, through the speaker because it's terrible. I'm going to try to get in here.
I can do it on my phone.
Yeah. Okay. How much battery do you have? I have 74. So, sorry, listeners. Sorry, people on YouTube, just bear with us here. Listeners of the podcast, you won't hear any of this, so it doesn't really matter to you. So sorry, we're just going to get us back in here.
But from Xfinity Live just invited me for a happy hour on. So hey, Paula, if you're listening.
Okay. I don't think
she might be.
Okay.
Maybe. You don't know.
Yeah. All right, listeners.
Hey, whatever happened to that dog that was barking?
He's been taken care of. He's been taken care of. Are you in?
It didn't ask me.
I sent the email. Like a drop down. I sent the invite.
I did not get it.
Well, I think because you're still. Oh no, you're not in here. You're in here. All right, I'm gonna kick you out.
Okay.
Eject. All right.
Ejected.
Sorry, listeners. We will be right back. Christian. Okay. Wait, you can't. Matt, can you see us?
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah. I can see
Matt?
you. Stop yelling at me.
Holy shit. You are so quiet.
Turn the volume up.
What? Oh, whoa, that is up close and personal. Do you have headphones?
Yeah.
Can you just get them so we can put them in here?
Good luck with those.
Oh my god.
Wait, now I feel left out. Let me.
Hey, listeners.
Hey, hi. How is everybody?
Right, let's see if this is.
Yeah, fun fact, you have to put it in like that side because
You got any games on here?
on the end.
What?
You have to put them in this way.
What do you? Okay, that's the wrong ear.
No, it's not.
Oh, you want to put
You
it
have
in
to
like
put it
this?
in like that, or it doesn't work.
Hello?
Can you hear?
Matt, say something.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. All
Oh,
right,
now I
listeners.
can't hear.
You can't hear anything?
You have to like turn the thing.
Yoo-hoo.
Oh, I heard something there. Hold on.
Say something.
Yoo-hoo.
Oh, I hear him.
Big
Here we
summer
go.
blowout.
Okay.
That's not going to stay there.
You got it.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Just push it back further.
Push it back further where? All right. Okay. All right. You can hear us all right? Don't do that. Matt?
Yeah, I can hear you
Yeah,
guys fine.
just respond, please. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, listeners, sorry about that. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here, but we have got it situated. Matt, you just said that you think Pulisic's the only kind of groundbreaking talent that we have, and so you're not really excited about the roster that we just said. Christian, what were your thoughts on that roster?
Well, I had it in front of me. I don't have it anymore. But my thoughts on the roster are that I think Bobby Wood probably is going to still be the striker at that time. I hope someone else comes through. I think he's a very solid player, and he'll be in the lineup somewhere within the 18 players probably on a roster. But I don't think he should be our star striker. I don't think he has that capability. And Josie's still only, 30 at that age?
No, he'll be
31?
32.
Oh, is he
He'll be
28?
32 for the World Cup. Yeah,
Oh, okay, he's 27 now. Okay. But, I mean, still, he's going to be involved as well. I think that we need someone younger, someone more mobile, in my opinion. We don't really have that. We haven't had that since Charlie Davies, in my opinion. And my goodness, how we missed him after his accident.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, I still think, I was talking about him earlier, but Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie in the center midfield. I know I'm kind of glossing over Kellen Acosta, who still has the potential to be a very, very good player.
You could play all three of them and put Pulisic out wide. I mean, that's where he plays for Dortmund.
Yeah, but I think he's more effective in the center of the midfield for the U.S., and so I think he's just a much better player in the midfield. I could see Miazga and Brooks being the starting center back, but I could also see some other center backs coming through and pushing through. Left back is always a crapshoot for the U.S. And then Yedlin, I can see him continuing to do well. So with that, it's always ridiculous trying to predict the roster
5 years in advance.
Yeah, exactly. So there's going to be players that don't pan out, like I was saying before. Looking at the last roster of youth players, we had like Rubio Rubin or Vezio Payne, his name was. Like there were so many players breaking through in Europe and who just didn't pan out. Yeah, Mix was an interesting case. But like Rubin was getting starting minutes at 18 for a team in the Eredivisie. And like I don't even think he's on a roster anymore. And so you hope, don't do that. You hope that a lot of players do pan out and break through, but there's going to be players that come out of nowhere, and there's going to be players that pan out from here and like that. So,
yeah, whatever happened to Lyndon Gooch?
Yeah, so he's at Sunderland.
He's only like 20, right?
Yeah, he's 20 or 21. He had some injury issues last year, and so I think he's getting some minutes. But again, with him, I mean, it's all about if they can actually get minutes and playing time, especially as a young player. Playing time is most critical.
Yeah, I think probably of that lineup, we're going to see 4 of them actually starting at that point. I think we probably see 8 or 9 of them in the roster, but
I would say in the player pool. I don't know about
in the player.
Roster.
Okay, you mean in the 25 that they're going to be up for selection? Maybe.
No, I mean like that are going to be involved in qualification or something like that. That are going to be evaluated.
You think only 8 or 9 of them are going to be in that?
Yeah.
You think there's going to be that big of a turnover?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like so many of those players, like who knows? Josh Sargent hasn't played a minute of first team soccer.
Nope.
Like so, he's incredibly impressive at the youth level, but like we have no idea. How
what
he's
about players like Lennon from Liverpool?
Yeah,
I mean, he's on loan as a striker at Real Salt Lake, right?
Yeah, winger, but yeah.
A winger, okay, but players like that who are playing at the top teams in Europe.
Yeah,
you don't know how they're going to turn. Yeah,
minutes or if they just fizzle, and there's so many players. Like there was a guy. Villian Bijev, who was in Liverpool's academy.
I remember him.
Yeah, he left. He bounced around Europe for a while. I was just in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago. He's playing for the Sacramento Republic now. And, like, he was this huge
Do you hang
talent.
out?
Yeah, he was this huge youth talent, and, like, that just didn't pan out. And so, like, I would be I wouldn't be surprised if 8 or 9 are involved in qualification, but to be on the final roster, like there's going to be a ton of changes. I think Horvath is pretty solid as a goalkeeper, but like who knows if Zach Steffen steps up and starts pushing through, or Jesse Gonzalez, or somebody else who hasn't gotten
What
minutes
about
yet.
Palmer Brown? He's another center back that.
He has. Palmer Brown's a good shout too. He's moving to City, and he'll probably get moved around Europe for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you see Timothy Weah in the U17s?
Yeah.
Oh, Weah
he
is
had a
another
hat
one.
trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a PSG Youth
He's looking
Academy.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing if you got a
so-
player
and
like
so,
him.
like he isn't even there. Like Jordan Morris, I could totally see players bypassing him. So to have
Yeah.
him starting on the wing, I honestly don't know if he's going to be.
Man, I'd rather have him in the middle, to be honest.
And actually, so Jordan Morris,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's more of a speed guy. Like I think he's so much better as a bench option than he is as a starter.
I think he's more of a second striker than a winger, though, too.
Yeah, maybe. But that actually brings up a good point. Did either of you guys see the Jermaine Jones rant?
I did not.
All right, so
I
Jermaine.
saw like 3 minutes of it.
Okay.
Oh, my God, how long was it?
15 minutes. Jermaine Jones, for those of you that don't know, this is a good transition. Jermaine Jones posted a video on Instagram Live of him just basically talking about U.S. player development and the player pool and all of that. And in it, he ripped, MLS and some of the players coming back in certain ways. And he specifically called out Jordan Morris. And he said, not naming other names, but he said basically the youth players aren't challenging themselves in Europe and aren't being pushed every day. And so he told a story about Jordan Morris. Jurgen asked Jermaine Jones to call Jordan Morris when he was signing his professional contract and tell him that he should go to Werder Bremen. He should challenge himself. And Jordan Morris basically said that, he wanted to go home. His parent, his dad was a doctor with Seattle. He wanted to spend time with them. His mom had just bought him and his girlfriend a dog, and he just kind of wanted to go home. And so, like, Jermaine Jones called him out and said all this. Does he have a point there that, is Jordan Morris indicative of the American player who doesn't want to challenge himself and just wants to be comfortable? And, can we not develop better players that way? What do you think, Christian?
I mean, I think every country's going to have players like that. Jesus Navas wouldn't go to the World Cup in 2010 because he was going to be homesick. It's just everywhere you're going to get players like that. And I'm sorry, but they're just not going to cut it eventually. And there are going to be other players that bypass them.
So, but he was a contributor and a starter and heavily involved in the U.S. program. So is that?
Yeah, and look what happened.
Yeah. That's Jermaine Jones's point. That we have players like that. And we need players.
Well, Jermaine Jones was written off as soon as Klinsmann was ousted. So he's one of the players who is very talented. And yeah, he's older now, but I think he should have been involved, and he provided something in the midfield for us. Same with Fabian Johnson, and I know he hasn't been playing great, but I think he's a better quality player than the players who we're getting in there.
Yeah, and Jermaine wasn't actually saying that he should be involved. It wasn't a rant.
Oh, no, I understand that, but
involved.
I understand his frustration, and he should have been involved at that time.
Yeah, that's fair. And Fabian's a really good, interesting case. I mean, he hasn't played well in a year.
But I still think he's better than a lot of them, and he's used to playing with a lot of the guys who were out there.
Yeah. Matt, what were your thoughts on Jermaine's rant?
Well, I think he's bringing up a lot of problems that were talked about a decent bit, like between us all week. Just like how development, just like how the development is in this country, and how you can't really develop in this country because of the payment plans, or there's just being so many. You're my roommates. Well, I'm just fucking, but just like. It's just hard to find the development, and then people that want to push themselves, and you kind of have to go to Europe, and that it's not really happening as much as it needs to be.
Yeah, so I agree with that to a certain extent. I think that players can develop in all different environments, and so every player is kind of unique. And I think that generally speaking, it is better to be challenged and to be competing at the highest level. But there are instances where, players they can't get comfortable in Europe and they can't be a good player. Landon Donovan's a perfect example of he was definitely a worse player when he was in Europe versus when he was comfortable. And so it's all about maximizing each individual player's potential. And, everybody's different, which is, tough to deal with, but it's just the reality of the situation, and not every single case is going to be open and shut.
So Donovan, he was good for Everton when he was in there, but I know when he went to Bayern, he didn't do anything Well,
Leverkusen.
yeah. But this is just a general question. You know how like FIFA you have to sit out like a certain amount of days in a year? Pros, like you know how like if you do like an international tournament after the European season, what? Like, you need
What?
like a certain amount of break. What?
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
so
we
like
don't
how
know
do
what
you
you're talking about.
okay, like so like after Euros, you know the players go to training camp late.
Yeah.
If you make the final because don't you need like a certain amount of rest?
Yeah, I don't know if that's mandated
I
or if
thought
they
that was
just.
just clubs
Yeah,
deciding.
I thought clubs did that. I don't know if it's FIFA mandated or not, but okay, continue with your point.
Oh, that was my point. I was just like saying like because he played the entire MLS and then in the off season wouldn't he go to Everton and then just come back and keep playing like the entire MLS season and for the national team? Like how was he able to do that?
A lot of players did that. So like Robbie Keane would do
Henry did
that.
it.
Henry did that.
Huh.
Gerrard, no,
The
he didn't.
the Portland
Lampard did it.
What's his name? Portland center back who he was like a championship level player, but he came over. I can't remember his name. I think he was captain, but he did that too.
Is it Colin?
Beckham did that, and he blew out his like Achilles
Oof.
playing with
PSG.
no with Milan. He did that with PSG after MLS. But he blew out his Achilles playing with Milan. But yeah, a lot of players do that. No, there's nothing preventing them from doing it. It's more just, I mean, physical toll on your body. What did that have to do with? Were you just saying more players should do that?
No, I was just wondering because you were talking about Landon Donovan, and I was just wondering how he did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Little side trivia.
Okay, so that's how he did that.
Okay.
I will say that what's important for MLS and development of the American player is something that Jermaine brought up in his point. It's that players aren't pushing, like lower level players on MLS rosters aren't pushing big name players. And so, like with that, the reason Europe's the best is because players need to fight every single day in training.
There's such high
perform.
turnover. Yeah.
Yeah, to perform better. And so if MLS really wants to develop better players for the national team and just better players in general, keep saying it over and over, the bottom and middle of MLS rosters needs to get so much better. And the way you do that is you raise the salary floor and you increase the level of investment that you can commit to the mid-level roster players. The top-end players with designated player contracts and all that, they're bringing them in no matter what. But the mid and lower level players, MLS rosters need to get better. It's ridiculous that somebody can be making 100th of what another player could be making. You know, somebody could be making, did I do the math right? $5 million, and then somebody else could be making 50,000 on the same roster. And so in Europe, that's not how it works. Even at youth team level, I don't think it's that big of a discrepancy. And so that really needs to change for MLS to really start producing better players. Were you going to say something, Christian, earlier?
Yeah, I was just going to make a last point here because we all agree that something has to change drastically for our production to get better. Do you think Galati goes?
So he's not going to resign. So Sunil Gulati, for those listeners who don't know, Sunil Gulati is the USSF, United States Soccer Federation president right now. He's been president since 2006. He's heavily involved in U.S. as well as FIFA and World Soccer. He's very powerful. I don't think he goes. I don't think he definitely doesn't resign. And there's a FIFA election. A U.S. Soccer president election in February 2018. All signs point to him staying. I don't think he goes, and I don't think he gets voted out. Whether he should or shouldn't, I mean, that's kind of up for debate, but that's kind of my thoughts. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think he sorry about mute, but I think he should resign. Yeah, I guess the U.S.
Okay.
because
You didn't sound
Say very
confident.
confident when you said it.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know who to replace him enough to like say like we'd be better off replacing him.
I mean, sometimes,
like
sometimes
considering
teams,
everything that's happened in the last week or so, that's why I think he should, but I don't know the better alternative.
yeah, and he's done a ton of good for U.S. Soccer. They have $100 million surplus. Like he's done a ton of good for U.S. Soccer in his tenure. It's just been a rough last 2 weeks, and there are some that maybe he continues at least on the business side because he's been very effective at that, but they just need to get somebody else on the technical side and maybe just separate the technical and the soccer side from the business side. So I don't know.
I mean, you look at teams specifically, not even federations, like Liverpool, who don't spend big and they are being left behind. They're more concerned with saving money and working the business. And that doesn't always work, especially in soccer. You need to have a plan for production. And I agree with your point where I think he could stay on as like a financial advisor to the president, but we need someone who is technical and who's going to improve the quality of our players.
And also, like, the U.S. soccer president's role is not really clearly defined. And so I think what could really be helpful is to have a clear delineation of what that person's role specifically is. And then below them, like, we have a CEO of U.S. soccer who's supposed to be in charge of, like, business. His name's Dan Flynn, who's supposed to be more in charge of business. And, like, we have a technical director. That's what Jurgen Klinsmann was. And we have a youth technical director, which is what Tab Ramos is. So there are these things that exist, but it's not clearly defined who's responsible for what. And so maybe you still have Gulati in there, but then his roles just shift more towards business, because I don't think he's stepping down and going away anytime soon. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. And also that we didn't get into this, and maybe this is a topic for another discussion, but like pay to play at youth development level is something probably we should talk about on a future podcast. Oh, yeah. I did mention that in my blog post as well, so check that out. But let's move on at this point, because I think we've hammered home all of this. Matt, unless you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Yeah, lots. Christian?
No, I think we covered this.
All right, let's go to some music. We're not going to have a fan futsal segment. So the second segment this week, we're going to talk about some more topics, and then third segment will be yet some more topics. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Right. This is going to be so long.
No, it's not going to be long, because we're not going to have the fan futsal segment. And
that was so long.
Yeah, that was pretty long.
I thought we were done.
Yeah, I know. That was really long.
Was it?
It was like 30 minutes already.
Okay. So, well, we don't have that. I was going to talk.
Skip Dallas.
Dallas?
We don't have to talk about that.
Well, we can just mention it real quick. Like, yeah. We'll just have a quick second segment. So we'll just talk FC Dallas, and then the United Nations. Nope. The UEFA Nations League.
United Nations League.
The UEFA Nations. And then because like the rest of the topics, I don't think we're going to have a ton to say. We'll keep it moving.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Matt, you look like you're pretty stoic, posing off into the distance, deep in thought.
Vampire. I see a reflection, though, so you can't be. I don't see your hand, though. That's crazy. What?
Okay. All right.
Okay. Where's your hand, bro?
Okay. Welcome back, listeners, to segment 2 here. We're going to keep this moving along because I know the first segment was a bit long. So real quick, we want to touch on this. A couple weeks ago, we mentioned FC Dallas fielded an ineligible player in their match against Orlando City. And ultimately, MLS ruled that it didn't result in a 3-0 loss for FC Dallas, 3-0 victory for Orlando City. They ruled that FC Dallas consulted the referees before the match, and the referees advised them improperly, so it wasn't FC Dallas's fault. Ultimately, they just fined FC Dallas. That obviously had implications on the playoff race. Orlando City was eliminated, and FC Dallas is still stumbling and technically out of the playoff race now, but they would be even further back if that loss stood up. Matt, what are your thoughts on MLS, basically going against FIFA regulations, which dictate a 3-0 loss?
Yeah, I feel like any professional organization, sports organization, should abide by their rules, like to the letter of like the law. So it's kind of just like baffling to me that they kind of ignored this rule that they have.
Yeah, Christian, thoughts?
How on earth did the referees wrongfully advise them, and how are they being punished? Because that is unacceptable at this level.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
And I understand why FIFA or U.S. Soccer, whoever decided, doesn't penalize them, because the referees were wrong.
It was MLS that decided.
MLS decided? Well, I mean, they're the governing agency, so they get to decide, but I don't think it's correct. I think that the refs were wrong and they kind of had their hands tied, but it's against FIFA rules. And if MLS is a FIFA sanctioned league, which it isn't, correct?
No, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's in FIFA, so it must be, right?
Yeah, that's how that works.
then it has to be followed. That is the letter of the law, like as Matt said, and it has to be followed.
So, do they get a pass in any way because the referees advised them wrongly? And so the referees should take more responsibility?
Well, yes, they did. They did get a pass.
I know. But in your opinion, was that the right move?
No, because
even though
people in charge of the team, they know the rules, or at least they should, and it's on them for not following them. It shouldn't be all on the referees, though the referees should be punished for not giving the right advice.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Matt, anything else you want to add?
I concur.
UEFA is so the European governing soccer body. Speaking of soccer governing bodies, UEFA is launching a new. It's called Nations League, and so what it is replacing the friendly system. So in FIFA international dates, where international teams get together and play friendlies, that's kind of going away for European nations, and instead they're going to be competing in basically a competition that runs throughout the. I think it's a year or two period, and it broke Europe. It broke Europe into, I think, 3 different divisions, and so each division has 12 clubs. No, the math doesn't add up. 3 or 4 divisions. Maybe it's 4 divisions.
There's 4 divisions, 43 teams.
There you go. 4 divisions, 43 teams. Thanks.
How does that work?
43 or 55?
How does that work either?
Oh, I think it's 50, like the first 12, and then they said the remaining 43 teams are dividing into 3 groups. I think that's how it was phrased.
All right, yeah. So there's a bunch of divisions basically being broken up. And so the thought process behind it, we've talked about it on a previous podcast, but the thought process behind it is the top countries are basically going to be able to play against each other, promotion relegation system. I'm sure there will be a monetary benefit for the winners. And then the next level of talent is going to be competing against each other, so on and so forth, down the pyramid. So you don't have San Marino playing Germany in a friendly, because it's always kind of ridiculous when they meet in World Cup qualifying and they win like friendlies, 11. Yeah, they win 11-0. Right. But so it's replacing friendlies with competitive games that are going to theoretically have a benefit. But on top of that, it's competing and matching up the same level of talent against each other. And so,
but is that going to change frequently?
Yeah,
because
so
the rankings. Okay.
Yeah, every year or two, basically, there'll be a couple nations promoted to the next division, a couple nations relegated, and that's how they're kind of incentivized. I think it's every 2 years that kind of happens. And the other thing is that I think each division gets at least a qualifying playoff spot for either the Euros or the World Cup qualifying. Oh. So even the lowest level teams will still get a shot and a benefit from winning that lowest division. So what do you think about that league? Would CONCACAF stand to benefit from something like this? What do you think, Matt?
Well, I don't think there's enough teams in CONCACAF, or competitive teams at least, to, be like that, to really get the benefit of it. We would probably just play like Mexico, Costa Rica, like basically what the World Cup qualifying group, I guess, was.
So there's 43 nations in CONCACAF, and so if the top division is 10 teams, we would compete against, the teams you said, but then like Canada, maybe Guatemala, maybe El Salvador, which are some of the next level talent that's not quite as good. Yeah, they'd be in the top division, but then you would have the mid-level teams like, Trinidad. Well, Trinidad's a bad example. So like Dominica or something like that, competing against Martinique, and they wouldn't be overmatched every single time when they're playing Mexico or the U.S. And it stands to help them get more competitive and potentially get some monetary benefit because they'd be in the second division.
Yeah,
or do you not see it that way?
I don't see it that way because you don't get that much time with an international team. So it's not like it's this is your team, you play your league, your whole season with them. You just have a short amount of time with that team, and I think putting them and there's so much turnover in that national team, so I think putting them in a league environment isn't really fair. And for international, I feel like friendlies help test out players for the important tournaments because you don't have that much time with them. So I don't think it's.
So you like the non-competitive nature of friendlies because it allows teams to test out players and to develop different strategies and figure things out so that they can then use different scenarios and different players in actual competitive matches. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's
fair.
interesting. I don't know how you heard that from what he said. Is that what he said?
That's exactly what he just
Okay.
said. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
you weren't listening.
It might have not been. That could have happened.
Okay. 'Cause you're playing with this.
Yeah, I
I'm just
keep
gonna
playing
take.
with
I'm gonna
that.
take that away.
Okay.
So
So
what are your thoughts on?
that was a really
nation-
good point.
Yeah, the Nations League and if it could be implemented in CONCACAF or whatnot.
Okay, sorry. I was really trying to focus on what I wanted to say, and I didn't want to forget it.
Okay.
I think that it would be ridiculous for CONCACAF to follow this. I think for Europe, it makes a lot of sense. For CONCACAF, it's not as competitive, and Europe has a lot of teams going to the World Cup and has a lot of Euro. Obviously, in Euro, they're playing all against European teams. They're getting that experience against teams that are also going to be in those tournaments. I think CONCACAF, we're not going to get that experience. We want to be playing against the European teams, and we need those friendlies to prepare ourselves for those types of games.
So you're approaching it strictly from a U.S. perspective.
Well, for CONCACAF in general.
But so you don't think that this would make Martinique a better country if they had more competitive games that were meaningful, even if it's against second division
No, I don't think it
opponents?
would help them.
You don't think it would help them?
No,
But it helps Europe. Why?
because they're playing against other teams that are going to be at this tournament, and they're competitive at that
So
level.
CONCACAF for the Gold Cup, what do you? So that's the same concept.
Yeah, but 2 teams ever win the Gold Cup. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think that
So
these
you don't
teams
think
are
that this would
producing.
benefit?
I don't.
Okay,
I really don't.
Okay, that's you guys both think it wouldn't benefit. I personally think it would, because it allows them to actually have games. A lot of these countries can't even schedule friendlies because it's not lucrative in any way for them to play these matches. So a lot of times they just have training or they play non-competitive matches. And so I think that this would give them more training time, more time to actually play in competitive matches, make them more prepared for international tournaments like the Gold Cup. And, inevitably, I think CONCACAF merges with CONMEBOL, the South American Confederation, because the next World Cup after 2022, the 2026 World Cup, qualifying, everybody is qualifying for that tournament, basically. And so I think it would be in everyone's best interest, CONMEBOL and CONCACAF, to have a unified confederation and then go through qualifying. As ridiculous logistically as that would be, because getting from Vancouver to Buenos Aires is I don't know, an 18-hour flight or something like that. Logistically, it would be a nightmare, but I could see that happening for competitive sporting purposes. But getting to the crux of my question, I think it would benefit. I don't think it necessarily benefits the Nations League would benefit the U.S. or Mexico or anything like that, but I think it does benefit the mid to lower level talent in CONCACAF and makes them better. All right. With that, we want to keep things moving right along here. So you're going to hear a little bit more music, listeners, and then we'll close with our final segment. Stay when.
Stay
Just stay. Oh, man. All right. Close with extra time and then big matches right after the international break. Anything to add? You doing okay, Matt?
No.
All right. Sorry. I know you want to get to studying. You good? Welcome back, listeners, to segment 3. And we'll jump right in here. The U17 World Cup is going on, and I was watching the U.S.'s final game against Colombia the other day, and the announcers brought up an interesting thing that I had not heard before, but the U17 knockout rounds are not going to extra time. If a match is tied, it will go straight to penalties. Christian, what do you think of this concept of no more extra time, and if you can't get it done in regulation, it goes straight to penalties?
It makes me think of the Community Shield, because that's how they do it in England in their openers of the year. They don't play overtime, and to be honest with you, sometimes it makes sense. I think in tournaments such as this, it's a World Cup, and it's a Youth World Cup, and you don't want to wear these players out, but at that age, they're full of energy, and you want to run them into the ground. So you might as well just – I don't agree with not having overtime. I think it's part of the game, and it has to be used in – I don't like changing the rules this drastically.
But why? If a team didn't do enough in regular time, why should they get 30 extra minutes?
Because that's the rules of the game.
Just because that's the rules?
Yeah, and I think it's right. I think as players tire, chances are created. And in the last 30 minutes, I actually would love to see a rule where you get a 4th sub in overtime. If you get there, you get an extra sub or one more.
That is a rule.
That's not a rule.
That is a rule. They implemented
not for everything.
Yeah, they implemented that last year. FIFA implemented that.
I remember us talking about this, but I thought it was like a rumor.
No, FIFA implemented that rule.
Is that official?
Yes.
Like for everything?
I think it would be cool if you got a 5th sub for making it in 2Ks.
Okay.
But I just think that I think overtime is just part of the game, and I like that this extra 30 minutes are like kind of high pressure. Sometimes they die out.
Extra 5 or 10 minutes in regulation then become extra? Like, wouldn't the extra time basically be condensed into the last 5 or 10 minutes of a match then? Because you know that you need to get a result if you don't want it to go to penalties.
I mean, you could say that for any shortening of time.
Yeah,
though.
so 10-minute soccer matches in the chaos, right?
I just think it's part of the game, and overtime has always been there. It would be stupid to get rid of it in any sort of capacity.
Okay. It hasn't always been there, but
it's been there long enough.
Okay, it's been there long enough.
It had golden goal. They now changed that as well.
Okay, so
I'm
no
all
change
for
ever.
No more changes.
No more changes. Okay.
I think it's perfect the way it is.
Okay,
a beautiful game.
Yes. Okay. Matt, what about you? What do you think about no more extra time?
I'm not really a fan of it, especially because at the senior stage, well, the Gold Cup does it do this as well?
Yeah, I think so. Right.
Or like the Copa America did this too, right? When like the U.S. was the one with like Argentina, the one like last year. I think they did this too. I don't understand why all tournaments. I don't know. Maybe.
It kind of sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. This happens.
Vaguely familiar.
This happens at the top level, but like it doesn't make sense to me because like when you're playing I guess like the real important tournaments like the World Cup, you do extra time. Keep having to take away from Christian.
He just keep going.
Okay. Yeah, like when you're doing it in Euros or the World Cup. Okay, yeah, it just like I don't get why they don't.
Got it. Yeah. I personally like this. I think if you can't get it done in regulation, so much of extra time a lot of times is just kind of dragged out, and you kind of inevitably know what's going to happen. I could see extra time being shortened. I think could be really helpful. I think 30 minutes is just too long. So like shorten it to maybe 10-minute halves if that. But I'm fine with just getting rid of it altogether. I kind of like this. The last 5 or 10 minutes, you know that if you don't get a result, it's going to penalties, and so you got to get it done in regulation. So I personally like that concept.
Do you think it's really that bad on your body? Like that amount of time? I mean,
I haven't played a 90-minute match in a couple of years, but
I did 2 days ago.
Yeah, back when I used to. I mean, when you're getting to 90 minutes, you're already cramping up, and so to play an extra 30 minutes, a lot of times, most players. I don't know about most, but a lot of players are cramping up in regulation, especially at these international tournaments when you have so many games condensed into a short amount of time. Absolutely. They're running 12 miles in some matches, over 90 minutes. Like it's a toll on your body. And so to add an extra 30 minutes of it, even if you don't keep up that pace, you're still going a couple extra miles. I mean, it takes a toll. No, you guys don't agree? All right, fair enough. We'll keep things moving along here to our final topic, which is big matches right after the international break. So we just went through an international break. U.S. lost. Terrible, terrible international break. But we came back. European seasons started up, and we had resumed. They didn't start up. They resumed play. We had Liverpool versus Man U, one of the biggest matches in England. In Spain, we had Atletico versus Barca. Christian already brought that one up. In Germany, we had Dortmund versus Leipzig, a battle of two of the biggest 4 clubs in Germany right now. And then in Italy, we had both Roma versus Napoli, 2 of the most exciting attacking teams, and then you had the Milan derby. All these matches right after international break with tons of players basically playing all over the world, players getting injured at international duty, other players coming back from ridiculous flight distances, and so they were rested and couldn't play Matt, should schedulers do anything different, or should leagues do anything different to try to have big international matches, not after international breaks, or do you think it's fine? The schedule is what it is.
I think it is what it is. I don't have a problem with it. I think, putting teams in different environments to win, having to overcome different challenges is kind of, unique with sports. All of sports, like you'll have different rests in the team. Football, you can go from playing Monday night to going maybe like Thursday night or Sunday, or Sunday to
Are you
Thursday.
talking NFL football?
Yeah.
Yeah,
NFL.
They never do Monday,
Thursday. You would never play Monday.
Yeah. Sunday, Thursday.
Yeah.
And then like some teams will have a Thursday game and then have 11 days off until their next game. So like in all sports, I think there's different. Yeah, exactly. There's not really breaks. You don't get fair breaks. I think it's something you have to deal with at the professional level, and I think handled pretty well already.
All right, fair enough. Well said. Christian, what do you think about this?
I think the schedule is what it is. It's made at the beginning of the year. It's just a chance that it could happen here, and it's the same with Champions League for a lot of these big teams. They're just scheduled in between big games, and especially later in the knockout stages where you could have a Wednesday game and then the following Tuesday for the semifinals, let's say, and possibly, let's say, Barcelona has to play Madrid and they're both in the semifinals.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. You have to play that Saturday, and you have to accept that. And it can happen after international breaks. It can happen, like I said, in Champions League, Europa League, any type of game like that. And you just have to live with it as a player. Schedules comes out. It's not purposely made so that those teams are played in those games. It's just by chance, and that is what it is.
All right, it is what it is. I think we're all in agreement here. I just thought it was interesting that all these big matches seem to be occurring after the international break.
Maybe it isn't chance.
Maybe it isn't chance. Maybe they did this intentionally. Right,
Who
Matt?
did this?
Very, very thrilling stuff, right, Matt?
Thrilling.
Yes. All right. That brings us to the end of our topics for this week. Matt, anything else you wanted to mention?
EA kicks off tonight.
Okay, kicks off. Doesn't tip off.
Nope.
Christian, what about you? Anything you wanted to mention?
Yeah, Craig Shakespeare getting let go of Leicester today.
Wait,
Did you
what?
see that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I completely missed that.
Yeah, he's out.
Wow.
So Leicester are looking for a manager. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Ancelotti actually step in there for the rest of the year.
Billy's great grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shakespeare in love.
I would be absolutely shocked if Ancelotti steps in there. I would be shocked if Ancelotti steps in there. Matt, are the Sixers going to win the title this year?
Actually,
No.
they did a simulation season, and the Sixers did win the NBA title this year from NBA Live 2018. So yes.
Okay, you heard it here first, people. Sixers winning the NBA championship. All right, Christian, recap our trivia question.
The trivia question this week is in relation to the Barcelona Atletico Madrid, as was just mentioned. It is Diego Simeone has been in charge of 12 La Liga matches against Barcelona. What is his record against them?
Okay, Matt, you want to give your guess?
Me? Okay. So I don't think Christian would have brought this stat up unless it was like some smug thing about Barcelona. So
That's
I'm going to go
true.
like 1 or like 2 wins.
Which one? 1 or 2?
8. But 2 wins, 2 draws, and 8 losses.
Okay.
All right, I'm going 3 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws.
Fun fact, Diego Simeone has never beaten La Liga Barcelona. They are 0-4-8. 4 draws, 8 losses.
So 8-4, because we're Americans and we say losses.
No, we're soccer fans, so we say it correct.
8-4. Okay, so that was a trivia question, listeners. Hopefully you got it right. Matt and I did not. With that brings us to the end of our podcast this week. We want to thank you for taking time out of your lives to spend it with us.
Sorry it was so long, guys.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
And gals.
Yeah, at the end of it's not going to be that long. So thank you for listening, though. We will be back next week, as always. We will have links to all of the stories discussed here in our podcast show notes. We will also tweet them out from our Bros Talking Soccer Twitter handle, which is at BT Soccer Pod. If you want to get in contact with us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. And everything was brought to you by FanFutsal, FanFutsal.com. So with that, thank you for being here. We will talk to you next week. See you, everyone. Bye.
Ooh.
All right, listeners. What is wrong with you?
It's bothering me
Just
so
why
much.
are you just sit still?
I
and
can't.
Stop
Look at this.
messing.
Whoa.
What is it? What is it in Orange County? Where she calls the thing, get the Ritalin.
Get in the van.
No. When she tells the nanny to get the kids Ritalin.
Oh yeah. Where's Jake's Ritalin?
Yeah, where's Jake's Ritalin?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's probably what you need.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listeners or watchers on YouTube, thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you.
My brothers are telling me I need drugs.
We'll talk to you next
Somebody